Yes, finally, Mualani came home. But there aren't any primos left for the weapon.
Well, just like him. If you've also spent all your primogems to summon Mualani and there's nothing left for the weapon, then worry not, because in this video I've ranked all of Mualani's best free-to-play weapons. And by meaning free-to-play, it's completely free-to-play. You don't even have to spend a single primogems. I think you already got a gist of what am I saying. Yes, I'm talking about craftable weapons. Now don't go start running away. There are also non-craftable weapons which can even outperform some of the 5 stars. And what are those? Let's find out. But before we jump in, here's a little disclaimer. I hope you're done reading. Then let's get started. All right, let's start with our craftable weapons. Prototype Amber, an old weapon, provides tons of HP. Now this isn't the only weapon which provide HP. We have the new event weapon, Ash-Graven Drinking Horn, and the new Natlan craftable weapon, Ring of Yache, which also provides HP percentages. Now if you look closely, you will notice that all 3 of them provide same amount of HP percentages. The only difference between them is their passive, means the different effects they will provide. The Prototype Amber restores energy of the equipping character and heal all party members when the wielder unleashes an elemental burst. The new event weapon deals AoE damage when an attack hits an opponent. This happens once every 15 seconds, and the Ring of Yaxche increases normal attack damage based on the equipping character's max HP. This damage bonus lasts for 10 seconds, and there's a limit of how much damage bonus you can achieve. To trigger this effect, the wielder needs to cast an elemental skill. Finally, we have our first group of competitors, so let us begin our testing. But first, please welcome the Cryo Regis Vine, who volunteered for being today's test subject. All right. Our volunteer reached at the testing area, and our competitors are ready. Now let the testing begin. Everyone, please give them a big round of applause for their excellent performance. Now let's see how each and every weapon performed. Since Mualani is a HP scaling character, attack becomes irrelevant for her. So the only offensive stat that Prototype Amber provides is HP percentage. Despite being lack of offensive stats, Prototype Amber performed quite decent. The new event weapon performed similar as Prototype Amber. The only difference is that it deals additional AoE damage. Now this damage considered as physical damage, and there is 2 ways to increase this damage. First is increasing Mualani's max HP, and second is by decreasing enemies' physical resistance, since it's considered as physical damage. As you can see here, Zhongli's shield provides 20% resistance shred. Thus, it dealt more damage. Similarly, enemies with high physical resistance will take less damage. In the other hand, the Ring of Yaxche killed its competition by dealing 28% more damage with normal attack. But the burst dealt the same damage as our previous weapons, because the passive doesn't increases burst damage. However, Mualani's most of damage comes from her normal attack, so increasing normal attack damage will increase overall damage output. So for now, the Ring of Yache will hold the first spot. All right, let's move on to our non-craftable weapons. Wait, I think we're forgetting something. Oh yes, the Mappa Mare. Another craftable option which provide a decent amount of elemental mastery, and the passive provides elemental damage bonus for 10 seconds when the wielder triggers an elemental reaction, which can stack up to 2 times. Alright, our test subject is already respawned, so now let's start our testing. We will test this weapon in 2 different ways, one without activating its passive, and another one with maximum stacks. As you guys can see, without Mappa Mare's passive, the damage isn't impressive at all. The normal attack damage is almost similar as Prototype Amber. However, the burst dealt more damage than the former ones, but with its full passive, oh boy, the damage became skyrocketing and makes it spot directly on the first position. Now our ranking became something like this. Is there any craftable weapons left? No. Alright then, let's move on to our non-craftable weapons. But before we move on, I hope you are enjoying this video. And if yes, then why not give it a thumbs up? Maybe even drop down a cool comment below. And if you do that, tonight, Mualani will appear in your dream to make it even more wet. Sorry about that. So where were we? Oh yes, we were talking about non-craftable weapons. As for non-craftable weapons, we have 2 candidates, Sacrificial Fragment and the Widsith. The Sacrificial Fragment provides a high EM stat stick, and the passive resets elemental skill cooldown when the skill hits an opponent. Now before we move to Widsith's description, first, let's test out our Sacrificial Fragment. Since Sacrificial Fragment lacks offensive utilities, the normal attack damage didn't even surpasses our Craftable Ring of Yache. However, the high amount of elemental mastery did really increases the burst damage. Now let's move to the Widsith. The Widsith is the only free 4-star which has a crit damage secondary stat, and when the wielder takes the field, the passive grants them a random buff for 10 seconds. There are total 3 types of buffs. Either you can get an attack buff, or some elemental damage bonus, or an heart attack amount of elemental mastery. So we will test with each buff. First with attack buff. Okay, since Mualani scales of her max HP, attack becomes totally irrelevant for her damage output. So the damage with attack buff will be similar as the damage without any buffs at all. Here, as you guys can see. Now let's test with the elemental damage buff. And lastly, with the EM buff.
Let's light it up. Let's ride. Let's light it up.
Out of 3 buffs, the elemental damage buff dealt the highest amount of damage. Since there are 3 types of damage, we will take an average of the 3 damage outputs and enlist in our ranking table. Now our ranking became something like this. The R5 Mappa Mare still winning by a single %. But this isn't over yet. The Widsith we've just used was R1. Now let's see how much damage an R5 Widsith will deal.
Let's ride! Check this out! That's the lot! Carbon wave! Amazing! Action at the flame!
Since attack doesn't matter, the attack buff damage didn't increases at all. However, the other 2 buffs damage did increase by 20 to 30%, depending on the buff. Now with the new average of 173,000, we clearly have the winner, which is the R5 Widsith. Okay, before we wrap up, everyone, please give a huge round of applause for our volunteer, Cryo Regisvine. So if you have an R5 or even an R1 Widsith, you should go with that. Since Widsith is available on the standard banner, I hope you have at least 1 or multiple copies of it. But if not, then the Craftable Ring of Yache will be your next best option. Even an R1 Ring of Yache can outperform all the other craftable options. You can get a free copy of it by participating on the Natlan web event. R5 Mappa Mare can also be a good option if you can fully utilize its passive. With that being said, I'm officially ending this video. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and do let me know in the comments which weapon you're going to use. And I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. Bye.